how do you define success? As you point out, it's different for everybody. I think that this would be true for all the panelists and generally people who are highly successful, but a dimension is certainly financial, but of course it transcends that. And I think, frankly, the more successful you are, the more transcendent the other things are versus just the money. Family becomes more important, but also I'm sure each of us have a number of causes that we want to further because I think a dimension of success is being able to make the world a better place. And you do that, one human at a time, but also many humans at a time if you find the right cause. Over to you, Peter.
Great.
Thank you, Michael. To me, success is, it's like a lot of things. It's a maturation process. When we first start out and we're young, there's a philosophy of he who has the most toys wins. And as we mentioned, John, earlier at the beginning of this, we realized that no one I know has ever seen a hearse with a luggage rack on it. So the best thing in the world to do is give back. And I think, to me, the measure of success is philosophical. It's not if you make it, you give it away. It's kind of the other way around. If you have the mentality to give it away, you will make it. And that then becomes the definition of success. And all that is integrated into what Michael was saying, whether it's family or business. But if you go somewhere and people realize that your moral code and your gyroscope is pointed towards helping others, they're going to be more willing to help you.
And Peter, did you speak at all about what it is you're currently doing?
Just in the pre, so I'm one of the, as far as abundance and success, I'm one of the founding trustees of the Robin Hood Foundation here in New York. And our mission is mobility from poverty. And we started it after the 87 crash, thinking New York's been good to us and we want to be good back to New York. And over that period of time, as we enter 34th, 35th year, we've given out over $3 billion of goods and services over that period of time.
And I will say firsthand, I've was lucky enough to attend the last Robin Hood event with Peter, and it was truly impressive. And talk about a room filled with abundance that was using abundance to cure scarcity. So it was a really moving event. So thank you. And Felipe, I know you're on a ticking clock. Do you want to take the baton?
Yes, gladly. Thank you, Nicole. It's a very interesting question. I'd ask another question regarding success, and it's how do you measure it? And there's probably a lot of answers, but one that might encompass all for me would be satisfaction. No? What derives success? The level of satisfaction and the lasting effect of that satisfaction. So as long as that's more long-term satisfaction, which doesn't come from ephemeral things, as financial benefits, which tend to run up to a certain degree of time, I think success entails a satisfying outcome for the person that's achieving it. I'm Felipe Fernandez. I work in CO, which is a systemic-based investment organization. We try to change systems by focusing on leverage points within them with different hats, investing in them through philanthropy, building up competencies, through venture capital and through financial institutions in order to create abundance where there is none. Thank you, Nicole.
Jay.
Hi, my name is Jay Bloom. I'm at this point in my career an opportunistic investor. I look for situations where there's an opportunity to add value, and I have my hands in a lot of different projects through my family office. Success, I think, is really a subjective term. It means different things to different people. I think for me, it's about content and fulfillment. It's not just money. I know a lot of people with a lot of money that are really unhappy, and I don't consider them successful. And I know people with no money that couldn't be happier, and I think they are successful. So I think it really comes down to having a sense of purpose and being content and feeling fulfilled. You know, I gave this, how do you do that? I gave that question a lot of thought, and I realized that there are three components, right? It comes down to time, money, and health, right? And when I thought deeper about it, I found that when you're young, you have time and health, but no money. When you're working, you have health and money, but no time. And when you retire, you have time and money, but your health starts to fail. And the key for me, I decided, was to figure out how to get all three of those things at the same time. And if you can do that, you're going to find contentment, fulfillment, satisfaction, and you'll be successful.
I think that's a great answer. So, you know, it sounds like there really isn't a formula to success, unfortunately, for many of us. But what I want to talk about is the road to how you've all gotten where you are, and pitfalls, obstacles along the way, and how you've dealt with them. Because as a fan of Tony Robbins, who talks often about failure, and you know, he says the person who's failed, the most successful person has failed the most times. I'd love to hear if that's something that you all have found to be true. And Michael, I would love to throw that to you, because I have been lucky enough to hear your early story, and it didn't start out such a rosy path for you. So I would love to hear, since you have climbed a very tall mountain, and why don't you share?
Well, so Nicole, is this pick on Michael Day? Is that what it is? I go first all the time. Okay. But I think, first of all, it's interesting that Tony says that I have the good fortune of having a JV with him, which is, he is really quite spectacular, and what an impressive human. But I think, you know, successful people do get affected by, jarred by failure. And I think it's those failures that allow you to appreciate the success. And also, it gives you courage. I mean, once your ears have been pinned back behind your head, and once you have absorbed life's biggest body blow and survived, you kind of have a measure of courage that allows you to believe that you can survive just about everything. Hope and optimism are very powerful things, and if you overcome an obstacle, then it's something that gives you you know, drive and courage, and makes you feel a little bit resilient and bulletproof. And those are very important qualities as you try to you know, build your career and build businesses, because many of us in the panel have done exactly that. My story is not terribly unfamiliar. A more spectacular example is Michael Bloomberg. But we were both fired from big companies in our late 30s, and we both went on to start companies. I do that because I like to aggrandize myself and compare myself to Michael Bloomberg. I am nowhere near Michael Bloomberg, but I followed my dad into Time Inc. I worked there 8 years. I got the reputation of launch boy. If I were better at my job, I would have been launch man. And part of it is that in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Timing was not particularly inventive, and I was able to create a few things. And my last job there was launching Entertainment Weekly, and that was the job that got me fired. And I had a couple of choices when I was fired. One was to jump off a bridge, but I thought, that's kind of permanent. So instead, I started the business outside of Time Inc. that I was trying to start inside of Time Inc., which was to put the magazine industry and the newspaper industry onto a credit card platform for renewals and bills. We took inertia, which used to be your mortal enemy, did nothing, and the subscription would lapse, to make it your best friend. Do nothing, and you would continue to be billed. That grew into a very, very large business. And 9 years after I started it, I'm bringing it public, and Time Inc. said, well, looks like you're serious about that. Let us give you an offer you can't refuse. And that was indeed what I did. That was unicorn number one, but also made me an employee of Time Inc. again, because I had a 5-year earnout, but under slightly different circumstances. So, then I was, once you get that bug, once you learn how to start businesses, it becomes rather infectious or rather viral. And indeed, I have an entire team, and what we do is start things. We're self-funded, and I'm pleased to say that we have added 4 more unicorns to the corral, and I think there's more to come. So that's my brief story related to doing what Mike Tyson says happens, which is you go into the ring with a plan, then you get hit in the nose. And if you don't have that resilience, you're not going to be successful, because you will be hit in the nose. It is not like venture capital likes to think it's up and to the right. It's just not up and to the right. It is particularly in the beginning, it's sputtering, it's difficult. And it is sprinkled with failures, and it's really about getting back up, listening to what the marketplace is telling you, making adjustments, and going back at it again and again and again until you drive it to success. And I'm sure everybody in this panel has many examples of exactly that.
I love that. And I'm also curious because, I wonder how much other people's opinions play into your mindset, because I think it's easy to let other people's opinions sway you, but how does someone else's opinion impact you, or how do you deal with that?
Is that for me, or is that for other people?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I'm going to be a little bit crass, but I think the Davos audience can handle it. There is an expression which is opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one and they all stink. So I think, you can't be blind to other people's opinions, but you're on the right track when everybody says it can't work. And at Time Inc., I was, asking this notion that we get a customer and then we start sending them renewal notices in paper. That's the business model of peanut butter, right? You go to the store, you buy peanut butter, you use an ounce at a time, and then you run out, you go back to the store. Versus what American Express and electricity and cable and everybody else is doing, keeps on going until you say stop. Why do we have the product model and not the service model? And I could not ever get a good answer to that. And finally, the best answer and the worst answer was, that's just how it's been done. Right. And when you hear that, you got something. That's just how it's been done. It's been done like that, from the dawn of time. You now know, okay, that you have a better idea. So, the fact of the matter is, particularly when it's a startup, particularly when you're an entrepreneur, you have to break eggs to make an omelet. You are not, by definition, following the status quo. You're inventing something brand new. And in order to do that, the status quo is going to jump up and down and stamp their feet and say, you're all wrong. You don't get it. And the fact of the matter is, we got a huge amount of equity. Everybody's got a huge amount of equity in status quo, right? So one thing to think about is who invents the future, right? Who invents the future? Think of the audacity of Elon Musk, right? He's not only making, there hasn't been another new American car company created since Walter P. Chrysler 90 years before Tesla, right? And not only is it a car, and not only is it a mass market car, but it's based on little tiny batteries that you can find on a watch and string together 10,000. You got a Tesla. The guys who invented, the wagons that won the West, the Canastota wagons, they were not the guys who built Ford Motor Company, right? So when we see transition, when we see disruption, that is ushered in by a bunch of people who think differently. And yes, right, the court of public opinion is going to say you got it all wrong. And that's just how it is. And that's kind of how you know it's right.
I love that contrarian thinking and being different. Peter, I would love to hear your answer to this. And, I know you come to things with a quant background, so I would love to hear your answer.
My answer is a bit briefer because as a, hedge fund / trader person, a young trader always comes to me and it's kind of like, what makes you successful? And my answer is, well, because I've already lost money in every imaginable way. And I'm sure there'll be new ways to imagine it. So it always comes down to risk management, in particular in the trading quant world, the judicious use of leverage, not being over leveraged. And the hardest thing in the world in any endeavor is admitting when you're wrong. And so having mentors to help on that side is very important. And I want to go back to Jay's comment for 1 second on success. And I'm very happy that everybody on this panel, nobody said, follow your passion, because everybody that says that is already wealthy. When you start out, the road to a good job is generally paved with a shitty job. So you have to be willing to do that. And that's part of the same notion of failure and success. You're not going to, as Michael says, you're not going to get right to the top on day one. It's a long and winding road. And that's critical. And I'm sure Jay has a similar sentiment with regards to that.
Yep. Jay, take it away.
Yeah. I think we all have common experiences, even though we experience them independently. I've seen 1,000 business plans. Oh, by the way, it's funny you mentioned Tony Robbins. He's a partner of mine as well and a friend, and absolutely extraordinary individual. I met him at a hockey game.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to hear him speak, and even the one panel that I got to sit through with him was some of the best advice I got and really helped my career.
Well, he's just one of the most, off camera, off the stage. He is what you see on stage. He's just one of those extraordinary people that just wants to do well, do right for the world. He would give everybody on the planet the shirt off his back. He's just absolutely genuine. And I'm not a Tony Robbins fan. I don't go to his seminars.
Sorry to interrupt. Hi, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we're out of time and we have to move on to our next panel. I greatly appreciate everybody coming in. Jay, I'm so sorry to have to cut you off, but I've got, 5 other people dialing in from all around the world that are waiting, and I certainly appreciate everything that you guys have contributed today. I think it's been a wonderful session, and Nicole, thank you so much for putting this all together. Go get inside and get something warm, preferably of the alcoholic nature.
Yes,
so
thank you. And Sorry, we didn't have an abundance more of time, but it
I
was
know,
great
absolutely. I
hearing from
apologize
everyone.
about
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
so
much.
This is a conversation to be continued. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.